So I have a bone to pick with the Lightning Lane Multipass.
If you've ever tried to use the Lightning Lane Pass at Disneyland, you've probably asked if the money you spent on it was worth it. We all know how long the lines at Disneyland can get. That's the whole reason to purchase a Lightning Lane Multipass, right? But is the idea of a Lightning Lane Pass better than what you actually get when trying to use it? We're spending some time at Disneyland in Los Angeles, California to find out. Sadly, it seems you can't just purchase a Lightning Lane pass and head out with a plan for your day. Using this pass is much more complicated than that. And if you don't believe me, take a look at our first time trying to use it.
I'm going to be honest, the Multipass is great for skipping lines, but it seems to have it built in to where when you use the Multipass, then you can't use it on another ride for like 2 hours. So it's either go stand in line for a few rides, or I guess just walk around until you can use your Multipass again. So I'm just curious, is it really worth buying the Multipass when you can't just, back to back to back use up the rides? Because we bought it for the entire day, and I didn't read all the fine print. I'm thinking you can just use it whenever to jump in, ride a ride. No, they only allow so many of them during a time period. Okay, makes perfect sense. They don't want the Lightning Lane to be entirely filled up with people, because it's the same length as the normal line. But as soon as you go ahead and pick that, hey, I'm going to use my Lightning Lane pass for this ride, you're not allowed to use it again for another 2 hours. So for an entire day at Disney, we've been able to use it once. That's because when we first got here, there's no point in using it because all the lines are super short anyway. It's only like a 5-10 minute wait. So we didn't think we'd need to use it. And then when we do go in to actually pick a spot, it's not until like 2 o'clock that, the show is going to be that we could use it at. And then we weren't allowed to actually pick any other rides for another 2 hours. So by the time that 2 hours gets up, all the rides are even later in the day that you can pick one. We're able to pick one. We use it to ride the Matterhorn. And the other one we were going to use it to ride, the ride broke down, so we haven't been able to use it for that. So what's the point of the Lightning Lane pass if you can't actually use it?
There is also the sad fact that Disney adds an extra cost to the most popular rides in the park.
So it sucks that when you buy the Lightning Lane pass, if you want to use it at Rise of the Resistance, you actually have to buy a second single ride pass, which is like $27. But I wanted to ride this ride so much because I love it so much.
Came in a little off target.
So paying the $54 to immediately skip the entire line, literally took us all the way to the front. We didn't stand in line at all. That was worth it.
So on that 2-hour issue we were having, what we discovered is once you've scheduled in the Lightning Lane time slot for a ride, you can't schedule another one until one of 3 things happens. Either you scan into that ride in your time slot, you cancel that ride time slot, or 2 hours have passed. Since the time slot we got for a ride that we wanted to go on was literally hours away, we couldn't scan into anything else until 2 hours had passed. So essentially we got to pick a ride and then wait another 2 hours before we could pick anything else. You can see how that led to a little bit of frustration.
I'm not sure if it's really worth getting the Lightning Lane pass.
Don't expect to plan out any order to the lands you want to visit or the attractions you want to ride. If you do, you'll probably have an experience very similar to our first time and start wondering why you wasted money on this useless Lightning Lane pass. But we went to Disneyland again and tried a completely different approach. Check out the results we had this time.
What up, Roger? Holy smokes, Roger! Giddy up, let's see!
Whoa, Jesus!
That wasn't so bad. Was it?
I think we learned some of our lessons from the first round of Lightning Lane. I'll tell you here in a bit. So how do you use the Lightning Lane Multipass the right way at Disney parks? Well, the second you get into the park, go into the app and find your first ride. Just pick the earliest time slot for any ride that's available. After you've scanned into that ride and you're walking through the line, keep your app open and look for the next available ride in the earliest time slot available. Pick that time slot, and then when you're done with this ride, go to that one and continue this throughout the entire day. This change in approach allowed us to go from using the Lightning Lane Pass once to 8 times. It actually would have been 9, but when we went to ride Tiana's Bayou, it was closed, so we got a freebie pass to use on another ride that we would have been able to use on the Lightning Lane Pass anyway. Now, I'm not including Rise of the Resistance in those numbers because that's an additional purchase for a single Lightning Lane Pass just for that ride. The only downside is you'll be walking back and forth across the park all day. So by the time you leave, your feet will be more tired than you've ever experienced in your entire life. But hey, at least the Lightning Lane Pass did its job this time, right? So long story short, don't go to Disney with any plans at all if you have the Lightning Lane Pass. Just pick the earliest ride available, and while you're walking through that Lightning Lane line, pick the next earliest ride available, and just continue doing that until you've hit every ride you want to do. And doing that route, yeah, I'd get the Lightning Lane Pass again. We'll see you next time.